Hi, it's Jay with our first writing structure video. As always, I'll start with a quote. Even in the future, the story begins with once upon a time. This time, this quote is from Cinder by Marissa Meyer. A brief off-topic note, Cinder is part of a series of Marissa Meyer's own versions of fractured fairy tales. In my opinion, they're a really fun read. Maybe check it out. Back to the point of the video, plot mountain. Have you ever heard someone mention how the beginning of a novel tends to set it up, how the middle is considered a climax, or how there might be a catalyst leading to that climax? As Marissa Meyer wrote, even in the future, the story begins with once upon a time. All stories and plot lines have a beginning, middle, and end. It provides a logical sequence of events to help the reader immerse themselves within the story and follow the path the writer provides. There are, of course, some exceptions, such as Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut. However, the very large majority of writers utilize some variation of the standard plot structure, the plot mountain. I discussed this all in the Instagram post as well. I'll link it down in the description, but first I'm going to give a short summary and a brief history. A plot mountain is the basic structure that a plot should follow. Although good plots can definitely deviate or have one mountain followed by another mountain, the plot mountain just shows the generic setup. Creating one while you are writing a story can be very helpful in terms of keeping track of your sequence of events and ensuring that the flow makes sense in the long run. Formally, the plot mountain is known as Freytag's pyramid. Gustav Freytag was a 19th century German novelist, most known for his realistic novels surrounding the middle class. Whilst analyzing various pieces of written works, he noticed a familiar structure between each of them. This visual representation of plot development was illustrated with the help of various stories from the past and will continue to benefit stories of the future. As displayed within this agenda, there are 5 separate main points of the plot mountain, with small purposeful transitions between each point. First off, we have exposition. The exposition is the classic beginning. It's where you'd find the always recognizable once upon a time or in a land far, far away. The exposition consists of the backstory, general setup, setting, and detailed physical explanation. Backstory involves providing your reader with enough information to know what's going on. Some stories utilize the strategy of starting the piece in the middle of a scene to immediately attempt to hook the reader. However, it is imperative that there is some explanation nearby. There are various ways to weave your exposition and backstory together in the beginning to ensure that you keep the integrity of the suspense or shock factor you were going for. Essentially, the exposition is where you introduce the backstory, whether it be surrounding conceptual topics, characters, locations, or history. The general setup or setting are simply for providing the generic world building process. Establish where the story is taking place. Paint a picture. What is common life like? Are there undertones of class conflict? What is the general dynamic between the characters? Then, of course, the always important questions of what time period is it? What season? In terms of explicit explanation, this is more dependent on your writing style. Some authors like to leave a lot up to interpretation for their readers. Others have the scene set in stone within their mental image and would prefer that their readers visualize that same exact image. Use this piece to explain, in as much detail as you'd like, what you'd want the reader to picture in their imagination. The inciting incident is something to occur near the end of the exposition, as a sort of transition into the rising action. The inciting incident sets the plot into motion. It pushes the reader and/or the characters into the story. It gives the main character a reason to perform actions necessary to reach the climax, the ultimate point of the story. It could be something life-changing like a new job offer or a death in the family. Or it could be something smaller, a seed planted in the character's mind, like a series of connected events. The inciting incident doesn't necessarily have to be thoroughly explored. For the types of stories that start in the middle of the action, the inciting incident may have occurred way prior to the start of the story. It obviously still exists and will be introduced to the reader as part of the exposition, but the chronological occurrence is prior to the first scene the reader is introduced to. Now comes the rising action. Building off of the inciting incident and its consequences on the main character, the author can have a lot of freedom here. Feel free to toss anything, within reason, at your character while making clear to your reader what the character can and cannot handle. This tends to be the heaviest part of the plot since there are so many scenarios to run through. You can choose a combination of various conflicts or focus on a few. Self doubt, antagonists, physical barriers, etc. Those are all good possible challenges to keep your story going. With these constant obstacles, keep the reader's interest and increase the feelings of tension and suspense. Leave some questions unanswered. Unanswered questions, when good and used in moderation, are what keep your reader intrigued. Will the main character actually win in the end? Who is the battle actually against? The character themselves or another individual? The complication simply builds upon this. Maybe throw some plot twists in, really complicate the reader's comprehension. Maybe your main character actually fails a few times. Maybe your main character does something completely unexpected. The climax. After building up to this moment for the whole plotline so far, your readers should be at the edge of their seat. They should be having doubts and various questions. Will your main character succeed or fail? What is the ultimate decision? The most official conflict is faced head on. This is a turning point. After working for this thing, the main character faces it. Whether they succeed or fail, they deal with the respective results. This may not necessarily be a long portion of the plot, like the rising action, but instead just a singular moment. We will explore some examples later in the video. After that, we have the falling action. What effects did the result of the climax have on other parts of the story? What loose ends were left over from the rising action or climax? The falling action and reversal simply provide a transition stage from the climax to the ending, or denouement. The reversal is the part where the author is able to shift the fortune of the characters. For example, the protagonist may be introduced to many challenges throughout the beginning portion, and now, perhaps, various things are going well. In terms of tragedies, this is where everything starts going wrong. This could also simply be recognition of why the change occurred. Finally, denouement. Although more commonly known as resolution, the resolution is slightly something separate. The denouement is a more generalized portion of the ending. What is the new normal of the society after the climax and falling action? Did the characters manage to cause some change? This should be clearly either positive or negative. Things either went worse or got better. Even if things stay the same for the most part, that could be interpreted as a negative, since the whole plot is leading towards a change, like the reversal. You should also leave your reader wondering about some open ended questions. It could get them thinking about things in a different light or possibly build intrigue for a follow up. The resolution is mostly what it sounds like. What resolution can you provide for your reader? Did the main character achieve what they were trying to achieve the whole story? What was a moral that the reader can take away? Provide a place where the reader can not only have those open ended questions, but also acknowledgement and acceptance of the storyline and its consequences. That was a really long explanation, but now I think it might be helpful to look at a few examples of stories that you all might know and focus on how their plot structures fit the plot mountain. I will be covering The Giving Tree, Matilda, then Romeo and Juliet. If you have not yet read any of these and dislike spoilers, I suggest clicking the link in the description to read a PDF version of the short story The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein. First off, we'll begin by discussing that short story. In this exposition, we are introduced to both the boy and the tree, as well as their connection. Their relationship currently seems to be one where the tree is like a mother loving her child. The boy loves to spend time with her and play with her. The issue introduced seems to be the boy is growing up, resulting in various conflicts. In the rising action, we see the boy start to age and think more practically. He spends less time with the tree playing games. What time he does spend with her, he uses it to complain about issues within his life, to which the tree offers him portions of herself as solutions to his issues. Every time he visits her, he provides an excuse for not playing with her, then states his issue, then moves on with his new gift from the tree. This cycle provides the repetition found in rising action. There also seems to be the cycle of the tree being happy that the boy is happy, despite constantly giving away pieces of herself. However, the tree reaches a point where she is actually not that happy. This is the climax. She finally has nothing left to give the boy. These two moments provide the climax. In the falling action, the tree explains that she has nothing she can give him for happiness, and he keeps responding with reasons that that doesn't matter. The effects of the climax are that she's simply sorry. She realizes she has nothing left to provide. The storyline reverses from her giving anything to not having anything left. The boy says he doesn't need much and just sits and spends time with the tree, which is a direct reversal of the rising action in which he just kept asking for more and more. The denouement within the story is more of a moment. Although the story doesn't conclude with the boy saying he's happy, one can assume. The story has a clean ending, establishing the new norm as the remaining time the boy has spent with the tree once again. Now, let's look at Matilda by Roald Dahl. For the exposition, we are introduced to Matilda and her family, who seem very different from her. We learn she values intellect and education and seems way smarter than the average kid. We learn about the general setting and that she's about to enter school. Suddenly, she finds that she has telekinetic powers, which is the inciting incident. In the rising action, Matilda teaches herself how to focus her powers and starts at her new school. She is even more clearly ahead of the rest of her class and loves her new teacher, Miss Honey, who tries to help her. However, we are also introduced to the obstacle of Miss Trunchbull, who seems to enjoy terrorizing students and Miss Honey. Matilda tries her best to help some students. When Miss Trunchbull learns of Miss Honey helping Matilda, Miss Trunchbull uses her power to take Miss Honey's house and money, leaving her broke and homeless. All of Miss Honey's childhood memories are within that house. Matilda goes to Miss Honey and offers to help, proving that she has telekinesis and has the actual ability to help in this situation. This is when the climax occurs. Matilda uses her telekinesis to effectively scare Miss Trunchbull out of the house and her job. This kickstarts the falling action, where Miss Honey is granted Miss Trunchbull's former job and receives her house back. Miss Honey allows Matilda to move up into a higher class to keep her brain stimulated, and her powers seem to go away because she is using her brain power more in education. The denouement is Miss Honey adopting Matilda, establishing that as a new norm. Everyone seems happy now, even Matilda's former parents. Now we'll discuss Romeo and Juliet by Shakespeare. I thought this tragedy would be another good story to look at. The exposition is the audience being introduced to both Romeo and Juliet and their respective friends and families. It's clear that the families have a very strict conflict between them. Romeo sneaks into the party at the beginning to see someone he is in love with who doesn't love him back, but instead he sees Juliet and falls in love with her at first sight. In the rising action, Juliet and Romeo fall deeper in love and they even declare their marriage. They want to get married. They have to keep their relationship a secret because of the conflict between their family. This is providing the suspense needed to keep the reader interested. Then the climax. The climax is the moment when Romeo kills Tybalt. Tybalt is a member of Juliet's family and had nearly killed Romeo's best friend, Mercutio. Upon seeing this, Romeo challenges Tybalt to a fight and ends up killing him. The falling action consists of a series of confusing situations and consequences. Some time has passed, and Juliet is set to marry someone her parents approve of, Paris. To resist the marriage, she takes a concoction that puts her into a very deep sleep, one that many people believe she was dead from. Even Romeo thought she was dead. Upon hearing the news, he rushes back to Juliet's side and kills himself using a poison, wishing to join her in the afterlife. However, she wakes up moments later, seeing him dead beside her, and is heartbroken. Juliet kills herself using his dagger. The denouement. After this incident, the families of both Romeo and Juliet agree to set their conflict aside and have peace. I think you can see how the tragedy plot mountain is very similar. However, it just has different connotations and feelings mixed in. That was all I have for the video today. If you have any questions or concerns at all, let us know in the comments below or contact us using the information on our card.co linked in the description. Make sure to hit the like button if this video has helped you, and feel free to share it with friends or anyone else you think would find this beneficial. Also, subscribe to follow us as we grow as a community and to keep up with our literature-themed videos to be. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next writing video.